Tonight on In the Life, an in-depth look at our most populous state's journey to marriage equality and the real possibility that it could all once again be stripped away. During our 17 years on national public television, we have returned often to the difficult struggles states have had with the controversial subject of marriage for same-sex couples. In Hawaii, in Vermont with civil unions, and in Massachusetts, where in 2004, same-sex couples for the first time received full marriage equality in a state. We lead once again with marriage, this time in California, because on May 15, 2008, the Supreme Court of that state ruled 4-3 that the state constitution protects a fundamental right to marry that extends to same-sex couples. The storm that followed that historic ruling has all culminated in a proposition and a vote that could very well decide the future of the gay rights movement in this country.
It's so fabulous. So great.
The decision today, it just expresses our deepest held values of human being.
It is a wonderful day to be in this movement and to be alive and to be here to see this happen. We're going to get married. We're going to get married.
The best day of my life was when Diane and I met, and so this is the second best day of my life.
The ruling by the California Supreme Court is one of the, if not the most significant ruling from any court on LGBT rights in the history of this country.
What the court seemed most moved by was the understanding of what marriage means. The word, the ceremony, the opportunity to say, I'm married, I'm getting married.
When people ask us, well, why aren't civil unions enough? I really think of my parents and think, well, what if I had grown up thinking, my parents aren't able to marry, but they got an interracial union. While the neighbor's parents, they're married because they're of the same race.
The court understood that for lesbian and gay people to be excluded from that meant that we were denied a whole way of interacting with our families and our community.
Kate Kendall heads up the National Center for Lesbian Rights, which served as lead counsel on behalf of same-sex couples in the marriage equality case.
It is about love. It is about dignity. It is about our children and the fundamental principles of the most basic human values of opportunity and fairness extend to every one of us.
While the scene on the ground in California was pitched high that day last May, people from across the country were watching and waiting at their computers for the historic decision to come down. Evan Wolfson heads the organization Freedom to Marry, and we were with Evan the moment he got the news from California.
Yes. We won and we won now. That's just fantastic.
He has been working to win marriage equality for same-sex couples for 25 years.
Now the fight begins. Oh my God. But we won. The opinion was written by a Republican-appointed Chief Justice who's considered to be very cautious, very conservative, and very respected. Not only upheld the freedom to marry, but because it even went further. It talked about how wrong discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation is.
1 month later, June weddings took on a whole new meaning on the West Coast.
Now in California, separate and unequal is a thing of the past. And I'm really happy to see this day come.
We are gathered here in the presence of witnesses for the purpose of uniting in matrimony.
We want to be able to say, here, we were there on that day, and, you know, we love each other, and now people have to respect that.
I pronounce you married. You may kiss. Congratulations.
Here we are at a time when our economy is in trouble. All the people who are planning weddings and all the expenses tied to weddings, it's going to help small businesses all throughout this state, and it's going to help the state coffers.
I definitely feel like I'm in the history of making the first weddings. I'm a small business, but all of a sudden I'm becoming a lot larger than I thought I would.
We think the implications for the economy in California are going to be huge. And we don't think it. The governor thinks it. The mayor of Los Angeles thinks it.
Marriage is also a promise made in the hearts of two people.
California Supreme Court has spoken, and what is more fundamental than the right to marriage?
This November, Californians will vote on Proposition 8, which would amend the state constitution to prohibit marriage for same-sex couples. Proposition 8 would reverse the California Supreme Court decision.
Same-sex marriage redefines this fundamental social good, and it changes the public meaning of marriage, and it puts into the law the idea that those of us who understand that there's something unique and special about a mother and a father, a husband and a wife, are bigots, are bigots, are bigots, are bigots. Our opponents are saying they're going to raise $15 million or more to basically spread misinformation about the California Marriage Amendment. Are bigots, are bigots, are bigots. To basically spread misinformation. Bigots. To basically spread misinformation. Bigots. To basically spread misinformation.
California is a huge state, 30 million people, 18 million registered voters. That is a huge audience of people that we need to move and come to understand why they should vote no on this amendment.
And the money has been flowing. Conservative groups spent an estimated $2 million just to gather the signatures needed to get Proposition 8 on the ballot in November.
Whatever it takes, they'll spend. They have groups like Focus on the Family that have enormous budgets who could pour tons of money into California.
We cannot afford to let right-wing extremist forces out money raises.
Ultimately, the fate of Proposition 8 lies squarely in the hands of non-gay voters. One of them, Dale Kelly Bankhead, is working hard on the ground with the LGBT community to defeat Proposition 8.
If every LGBT person in California voted no on this initiative, that wouldn't be enough people. And so the community has to reach out to its natural allies, and those natural allies are other groups who believe in fairness and equality and fundamental freedoms. And so we've put together this amazing coalition of well over 100 organizations, labor, faith-based organizations, women's groups.
Brian Brown sees potential support for Proposition 8 in communities with traditionally strong family ties.
We've been invited on Spanish radio, Spanish television, and our message is bigots to basically spread misinformation.
Unfortunately, there are too many people who want to turn back the hands of time, divide us on issues that, frankly, we need to get beyond.
What I think is that ultimately the voters of California are going to think back over the summer to all the couples they've seen getting married and making those commitments, and they're going to say, I don't want to take that away. That would be unfair. They deserve the same freedom that I have.
We have to be focused on our one chance to give the voters the chance to say, we know what marriage is, we want to protect it, and that's in November. People understand there's something wrong about 4 judges trumping 4.5 million California voters. Bigots, bigots, bigots.
The California Supreme Court was the first court in the country to strike down race restrictions on who could marry whom, and it did so in 1948, this year being the 60th anniversary. And taking that profound legacy from 1948, here in 2008, the very same court took our country forward, and as in 1948, history will vindicate it.
I think again of the example of my parents. When they were able to marry almost 60 years ago, polls showed that if interracial marriages had been put up for a vote in California, my family would have been voted out of existence.
Now time. Congratulations.
Hi, wife.
What's at stake is what kind of country are we going to live in? That is the nature of what we are facing in November. And if we were to beat this amendment and continue to have couples being married in California, we could really hit that tipping point and turn the corner where lesbian and gay people finally, no matter where you live, enjoy a measure of protection and security.